All right. Hey, Brenda. And for whatever reason, my video still doesn't want to work. So we'll see if it pops up. All right. Can everybody hear me? All right. I'm seeing good mornings and afternoons from people. I will assume that means we can all hear us. Cool, cool. Well, let's get started. Let's see. Let me move this there. Make sure I put my chat on everybody in case I have something wonderful to add to the conversation. Let's see. Oh, hello. All right. Can everybody still hear me? I just had an error message pop up. I want to make sure I didn't drop out. Okay, cool. Cool. All right, let's crank it up. Welcome to Trading Coaches Playbook. I will be your host this afternoon, morning, or even evening, depending on where you are, right? Um, look at the old disclaimer. Of course, this is all about education, so nothing should ever be seen as advice or recommendation. Since it is about education, any trades we talk about should always be considered as non-funded. Now, when we do trade, we got to remember that it does involve risk, so we want to limit that as much as we possibly can. And of course, Freedom Management Partners personnel are not subject to trading restrictions. All right. On the calendar, big full calendar, lots of cool stuff. So we've got our next inner circle on the 8th, another one on the 15th. That's Mondays as usual. And then mastermind group on Tuesdays as usual. Next one on the 9th. We've got the next Trading You on the 10th. We've got our Super Summit coming up on the 19th all day. So that's a couple of weeks away. And then after that will be Rob's next Monster Market Movers on the 25th at 8. Go ahead and go through the greatest hits, pop, E-mini think tank, and cover call explorer before we move to the free stuff, since that's a big list. Of course, we got power hour on Mondays, except when it's on Tuesdays, right? Like it was this week. Sometimes the holiday falls on Monday, and Rob likes to push that out till Tuesday, so that's cool. And then, of course, we got this show, Trading Coaches Playbook, on Fridays. And then here it comes, Mastermind Week next week. Big time, big time. So we've got on the 8th, which will be Monday, we've got our Inner Circle Trading Lab from 9 to 11. And then we have our Inner Circle check-in at 7 p.m. Tuesday the 9th, we've got again the Inner Circle Trading Lab from 9 to 11. We have a good time in there in the mornings. And then Mastermind Group class at 8 that evening. Wednesday the 10th, we'll have Trading You at 8 p.m. that evening. And then on Friday, we'll have our Inner Circle Trading Lab from 9 to 11. That's always Monday, Tuesday, and Friday. And then we'll have this session, except we're going to have a special Trading Coaches Playbook to finish up Mastermind Week. We're going to have a lot of different people in here, probably have several coaches, should have members of the various masterminds, at least Inner Circle, to kind of have a roundtable, answer questions type stuff. So, be a cool week, right? And of course, the follow us page with all the social media platforms that contain all the cool free stuff, right? Anybody not signed up for the Trading Post newsletter definitely want to do that. And since Mastermind Week's coming up, we've got a special. I think this is an ongoing thing, but book a free one-on-one trading strategy call with one of the Wealth Builders HQ coaches. So here we go. Look at that personalized trading roadmap tailored to your goals, clarity on how best to accelerate your success, insights from active trading pros. So this is a $37 value. So call us up, schedule this, and get in on it. All right. Let's see. So we'll start as we usually do with a review. of the market in general. And where did it go? There it is. So we'll start with the SPX, new all-time high right out of the gate this morning, right? Hope everybody took advantage of that. And then turned around and gave it all back, plus more. Isn't that interesting? So we'll zoom in so we can kind of see that. So we've got that new all-time high at 60, 65, 32, 65. And but we're back down. I updated this just a little while ago. So we're back down to 64, 68. Getting close to yesterday's open. So yeah, wow. Pardon my can open there. Get my bubbly water ready. So yeah, it's interesting. We've talked about this in several places where we've got a step up and sideways, a step up, down, step up, down, step up. Hey Brenda, yeah, my video's not working. I'm not sure what's up with that. I've done some troubleshooting and I don't think it likes my background, or at least it tells me it's trying to load my background. And then when I change my background, it still won't let me in. It still won't show my face. So I'll spare you that. Haha. But yeah, there's something up with Zoom, just doesn't like my video. So doesn't I don't know if it's my camera or what. So I'll get it worked out. I thought I had it worked out, but I don't. So anyway, but yeah, so we're going through this cycle. Let's make this just a little bit bigger. If you start here, you've got that retracement off the fib, off the V top from the fib, and then you've got one, one, two, two, three, three, four, four, five. Now, you may have heard me talk about this. If not, you probably heard Ryan talk about this, where a lot of cycles in the market run 3 to 5 times. Well, this is the fifth time. It ran shorter than a lot of the others. The others were about 8 to 10, and this one was one, two, three, four, five before it failed. And it failed at this level where we've kind of been up here around the 6,500 before. Failed at an all-time high actually, and then took a big gap. Took we had a move down last Friday, and then after the Labor Day weekend, that's a blank spot for Labor Day. We had a big gap down and then got some of it back on Tuesday. And then we'll zoom in so we can see. And then we had a doji on Wednesday, and we had a big day yesterday and a huge gap up to start today and then give it all back. So I'm wondering, so we've poked above that 6,500 several times. Let's see, twice. We've got that new all-time high. Let's pull this down. So we're trying to get to that 6634 level, that 100% of the ABC off of the fib that we've seen Rob do. So yeah, that's a pretty long distance though. Also, not great news today on the unemployment front. So, did that have anything to do with it? Well, the unemployment announcements were at 8:30, and this didn't really happen until closer to 10 o'clock. So not sure, what was going on there, but definitely. So the fifth rotation was right here, uh, Brenda, the short one. Um, and a lot of times that's kind of the end of it. But and then it took off again. So it's like, okay, is it not? This is where you get into the old dancing with the gorilla. You're not you're not making it happen. You're just dancing with it. Hopefully, with some preparation ahead of time, with lots of contingencies, right? So anyway, I am interested in this to see where it happens to go next week. Number one, because that'll be the last full week before the Fed announcement. We've got Fed announcement coming out on the 17th. So that could cause who knows what. But um, we'll get into that in just a minute. Let's take a quick look at take a quick look at the VIX, which is probably going up a little bit. There you go. So still hanging out in the 14, 15 range. We got up into the greens on Tuesday when we had that big move down, but we couldn't stay there. You've heard me talk about I like it up here because I'm a buyer and a seller, and that's where it's good for buyers and sellers. Down here, it's good for buyers. If you're doing long calls, long puts, if you're doing debit spreads or some sort of calendar or diagonal, which is usually a debit, a net debit, you're probably going to be okay down here. But yeah, it just kind of almost flatlined, which if we get a big news spike, obviously we've seen it in the past, boom. So we don't want this. This is very hard to trade. Even up in the top of the green, it gets a little bit more difficult, but it's good for selling. So anyway, that's kind of where we are in a overview. Quick peek at the weekly. We're still going up. Quick peek at the monthly. We're still going up. We took that little dip down um, for tariffs, and then we're still going up. So there you go. So let's move. Before we move into the topic, I did touch on the Fed announcement. So the Fed announcement, we're looking at a possible 25-point cut. That's what this is. This is CME's Fed Watch page, where it gives some really good percentages of what's going to happen. And if you'll notice, the percentage cut was 96.4% yesterday, and it's down to 88.4% today. So I'm thinking the unemployment news and this big drop has said, oh, hold on a second. But still, 88, that's pretty high. Everybody expects there to be a cut. I expect there to be a cut. Now, I am on the other side of the economic views from a lot of people. I'm not how do I read this thing? You talking about the CME Trade Watch? So, yeah, so I mean it's just a chart. So, right here are your rates, and you'll see the current rate is marked. The current rate is between 4.25 and 4.5. They do it in 100 point. They call it basis points. We usually use percentages, which is basically divide that by 100. That's the Fed rate, which is the rate at which banks lend to each other. That is the rate amongst the Federal Reserve. So it does affect other rates, but it's mostly that bank rate. Uh, so then you've got your 4 to 4.25, which is a quarter point. You'll hear people say a quarter point, 25.25% cut. So that is the 400 to 425, and that's right here. And then we've got a possibility for a point 0.5 cut. So the Fed Watch site here from the CME is saying the percentage chance of it staying at 425 to 450 is zero, which is interesting. So they pretty much are all but guaranteeing a cut. Now, obviously, we won't know till we see it, and this could change between today and Monday. But for right now, that's what they're expecting. I really hope they don't do this. This is a bad sign. If they cut a half point, that's a bad sign. You've probably heard Rob talk about. I think he talked about it Monday or Tuesday. Excuse me, in Power Hour, where that means the Fed is like, "Oh my goodness, we waited too long, and this is bad." It's going to spike inflation almost for sure if they do that. Quarter point is a little bit more conservative. That's what I expect. I don't, like I said, I don't necessarily agree with it. But then again, I'm not making these decisions. And I actually said today, this morning in the lab, I was talking to Amelia, and I was like, I do not have any envy for the people that have to make these decisions in the geopolitical environment, the economic environment that we are in right now, as well as the idea that you have to figure out a way to balance the rate, the Fed rate versus the inflation rate versus the unemployment rate. That's a tough one. Yeah, you're probably right, Brenda. So yeah, I don't envy anybody having to make that choice because it's really tough, but I will say dubious of the effectiveness that a rate cut will have on real estate. And I'm more worried about the fact that it could either hurt unemployment, make unemployment worse than it has become recently, and it might even give a little pop to inflation. I don't think it'll spike it, but it might make it pop. So, but everybody's entitled to their opinion, and we all know what that means, where that stands, right? Um, Everybody's got one and they all stink, right? So let's get started with some meat. How about that? So, in preparation for the joyous week that is coming up next week, I thought we'd talk a little bit about mastermind. So, what is a mastermind? I see some mastermind members in here this afternoon. I'm going to say this afternoon because that's what it is where I am here in Tennessee. And you can't see my beautiful orange shirt that I'm wearing today since it is football season, folks. But anyway, um, I have been a member of several different masterminds. Obviously, I am in Inner Circle and I do teach in Inner Circle. I am in, oh goodness, Brenda, don't say that. Um, the the and I'm also in the mastermind group, which is the next level down, and I teach Rob and I tag team teaching in there. And then of course we've also got Trading You, but I am also I am not currently in another mastermind group outside of Wealth Builders, but I have been. I've been in I've been in a storytelling mastermind with you've heard me mention Bo Eason, the ex NFL player, a lot about building a story and speaking on stage presence, using your body while you're on stage and things like that. As well as I've been in mastermind with Brendan Bouchard and I've been in a mastermind with Tony Robbins. So I've done several of those for many different reasons, whether it's, just general self-improvement or whether it's actually going after something like being a better presenter or being a better trader. So, what is a mastermind? You can ask anyone and they will tell you that they did not achieve success alone. That is true. It is no secret that many top entertainers, athletes, and business people had top notch mentors who showed them the way. Masterminds are a haven for people looking to expand their skill and learn while at the same time networking with some of the most brilliant marketing business minds in the world, traders, whatever. Napoleon Hill performed hundreds of interviews with effective and successful business people while conducting research for his infamous book, Think and Grow Rich. And Napoleon Hill learned that the main reason why many entrepreneurs are hugely successful while other entrepreneurs are not that successful, not is, who, were part of, while others weren't. Okay, so the reason why some are and some are not is that the successful ones were part of a mastermind group. Boy, I need to learn how to write better, don't I? I need to take a writing class. That's an awful sentence. Anyway, so yeah, mastermind is one of the keys that Mr. Hill talks about a good bit in his writings. So, a mastermind group is a group of peers who regularly meet in order to give each other guidance, advice, and support. And that is probably, for me, that's the most important part because it's not necessarily mentors and coaches and quote superiors, whether they are or are not. Maybe you see them as that or they see themselves as that, but it's really about peers and it's also about support but guidance, advice, and support. But I'm big on the peer support part. The ultimate goal of these meetings is helping members navigate complex and difficult challenges or issues using the collective experiences and insights of the larger group. You've heard Rob say it 1,000 times. 1 and 1 doesn't equal 2. 1 and 1 equals 11. And this is kind of part of that concept. While it is similar to mentoring, note that it has a few important differences. The mastermind group will likely have 5 to 6 members rather than being a one-to-one meeting. And some masterminds, I've been in masterminds that are 100 people, and I've been in masterminds that are 5 people, and it can range anywhere in between there, depending on what kind of topic, who's interested in it, how much it costs, as well as what people are after. So, mentorship, on the other hand, is typically for receiving only one-on-one, maybe one-on-two. Also, a mastermind group involves educational presentations, brainstorming, and even the discussion of personal issues. And you will hear all of that if you're ever in Inner Circle. These groups are great for providing guided opportunities for good group education designed to improve and sharpen members' skills. In every sense, it is a meeting of the minds, a place where you can truly speak the truth and expect the truth in return. Major, major point. It has to be an open forum and a safe place to speak anything, at least as it involves the topic or topics that the mastermind is built around. It stimulates creativity because someone could have a great idea and somebody else could throw an idea on top of it and tweak it and make it even better. And we do a lot of that in Inner Circle. It creates accountability, and you'll hear me in Inner Circle and Mastermind Group all the time. I love participation, and part of that is I want people to get out of their shell, maybe get out of that comfort zone, because as we all know, that's where true growth happens, is outside your comfort zone. But it you put yourself out there to be accountable. So you're doing it, and this is what you're doing, and then your peers can say, "Ooh, that's cool. Why don't you try this? I'm going to do that as well." There's lots of different ways that the back and forth can go. And the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. Again, 1 plus 1 does not equal 2. 1 plus 1 equals 11. I forget the first time I heard Rob say that, but I absolutely love it because I used to say 1 plus 1 equals 3, but I like 11 better. It's a bigger number, but it also makes sense because it is 2 1s, right? But but yeah, there you go. I answered it right as you typed it. 11 is one. A 1 and a 1 is an 11. So anyway, that's what it's really all about, is getting into a group where you can help others improve as well as improving yourself, and then you get, as it says, the whole becomes greater than the sum of its parts. So, at WBHQ, Wealth Builders HQ, we have several masterminds. We've got Trading You, we've got Mastermind Group, and we've got Inner Circle. So Trading You is kind of the mastermind light. It's kind of the beginning step after you've been in Wealth Builders for a little while, or maybe right as you get off the bat, you want to come in here. Into Trading You. You'll get 2 1-hour sessions per month. One is taught by Tony, and one is taught by Rob. Usually, obviously, things happen, but that is 99% of the time. And you're learning how to trade. You're learning about technicals. You're learning about fundamentals. You're learning about indicators. You're learning about charting. You're learning about mindset and all kinds of other things. But you're kind of, and you're in a group setting. So again, there's room for questions. Um, and it is chat based. So that's where you start to grow. The next step up is Mastermind Group. So, Mastermind Group has quarterly 2 hour sessions for training in a core strategy area. And then we have weekly 1 hour sessions, except for the weeks of core training. And what's happening in Mastermind Group is it's more focused on strategies and setups as opposed to how to trade. We're actually trying to trade. Um, and it's open mic for the students, so it's a little bit more open for them. Um, and but we've always got the chat window, so if you don't like to talk, you can type. So there's always an avenue to ask your questions and possibly answer questions that others have. And then there's Inner Circle, which is the next step up. And of course, it's invitation by invitation. We have a quarterly 8 hour core training, and that's split into two sessions. We do 4 hours on Friday and 4 hours on Saturday. And then we have our weekly 1 hour sessions for deeper dives into trading topics and usually into whatever we talked about in our core training. We're big into AI right now. And then we've got our trading lab Monday, Tuesday, and Friday mornings from 9 to 11. And that's where we actually trade. Amelia usually has her paper trade screens up showing the indexes, the ETFs, and we will trade and we will talk about, hey, I just did this. You can always tell though, and it's funny, usually with myself and with Roman, if you don't hear us talking, it means we found something and we're in the middle of it. Um, Whereas Amelia's a lot better at speaking while she's trading. I get deep into it. Um, but we're focused on strategies and setups, and we're also developing new setups like the Hakanashi scalp that you hear people reference ever so often. And that's one of those things that you're probably only ever going to learn about in Inner Circle. I don't know if we're ever going to put that out to the public because we built it as a group, as a mastermind. So it kind of belongs to all of us. Um, and then we've got student-led sessions, which we just had a couple of. We had Rick talking about structuring your business. We had was it Trader Will did one on, oh shoot, is he in here? No, I can't remember. I can't remember what it was. What was it? Anyway, so and Roman's done stuff and Mike's done stuff and Scott's done stuff. Everybody jumps in and kind of figures out where they can add to the equation. And then of course, open mic for the students, same. So the difference between a Hakanashi candle and a regular candle is, Brenda asked, explain the difference between a Hakanashi candle and a trend candle, please. So a regular candle has an open, a close, a high, and a low, and it is the actual price. If you're looking at price-based candles, you're looking at the actual high, low, open, and close of that instrument for that time period. Hakanashi is a little bit different. Um, it kind of takes some of the noise out. Here, let me oh shoot, where did it go? I forget the exact equation, so I'm gonna look it up. And here, I'll just show you what I'm doing here. Here we go. Hakanashi is, there we go. So Hakanashi uses a slightly different, God, all the pop-ups and stuff. So the close is 1/4 of open plus high plus low plus close. The open is half of the previous bar plus the open and close of the previous bar, and then the high and the low are actually the high and the low. So it gives you this open and close kind of takes some of the quote noise out of it. You won't see quite as much chop. If you see chop on a Hakanashi chart, then something's wrong. You do not want to be part of that. What I say, you'll see a lot of wickless candles, Maribozus. You'll see tiny wicks. You'll usually see wicks on one side, but not the other. If you see big wicks on both sides, something less than advantageous is happening. So, and that's kind of just a very brief explanation. But the reality is, what it's really about is just to kind of take some of that chop out, take some of that noise out. And it was brought to us. I mean, it's been around for a long time, but I forget, there was a trader that's no longer in Inner Circle, that brought that in, and he had a a strategy that he did using the Hakanashi candles. And then again, the mastermind, he brought it in, and some of us got kind of sparked by it, intrigued by it, and looked at it and did this and did that, and Amelia was the one that kind of started it, and then I started to build on it, and Will started to build on it, and Scott and others started to use it and add to it, and so it just became what it, and we all do it a little bit different too. That's the other thing, is we've got the setup, but the management can be a little bit different depending on, you've heard me say it 1,000 times, your trading style and your risk profile. So again, it's great. I can't say enough good things about it because of what it did for my trading. I've said before, I was an okay trader when I started. Um, like all of us, I had my ups and my downs and blow up an account here or there. And then as I started to get better, um, I got into Wealth Builders, and we got into what was the original mastermind group, which was the first one. And my trading got better. And then the mastermind group became a different group, came the group that it is now, and what was mastermind became Inner Circle. And that was the first time that we did a lot of the things that we're doing now, although it's all virtual. We used to do our quarterly meetings face to face, which was great. But obviously, CV-19, I believe, is the latest acronym you use to not get censored. But when all that fun stuff happened in 2020, we couldn't do it. And then after that was over, we did a little bit of it, and then it just became easier for everybody, especially because of travel and hotels and everything else. It became easier to do it virtual. And the same thing has happened with Super Summit. Super Summit was face to face the first couple times we did it, but last time and this time it's going to be virtual, just because travel can make it difficult, and we want as many people as we can get involved in that, right? So anyway, um, now that I've blathered on about that, I wanted to give you a sneak preview into Inner Circle, and I've kind of already done that with my goings on. Um, where did I go? Yes, I have many, many, many tabs. So this is what the member site looks like. So we've got our videos and manuals for our core trainings here, and they're divided up by year. They're divided up by whether it was done by Brandon or Ryan. We used to have a Rob, but I guess if it's not Brandon or Ryan, it's Rob. We've got recordings for our super summits. We got some extra stuff from Vegas Spread Mastery when Sean Reed was with us. And then we've got our weekly check-ins. So you can see our vault is packed with basically everything that we I do not know, Brenda. I have not heard any updates on that. But this is packed full of everything that we've pretty much ever done. So if you look, this is this year. So you see, we're doing um, there we go. AI and how to use it for presentations. That's what Will did. Asset protection was what Rick did. We've had others. Actually, and yeah, and Tony did our was it here? Yeah, our August quarterly was actually Tony did. He's the one that kind of sparked our AI. His topic was AI, and we went deep into that. But you can see a lot of the topics are things you've heard me talk about before. Trader reevaluation. We review this pretty regularly because it's something that everybody needs to do. Reevaluate yourself. Is your style the same? When I first started, if you the word scout made me break out in hives, and now that's my favorite thing to do. So you evolve as a trader, and you have to evolve as the market changes. And here's Brandon's stuff that he did for us. Um, we talked about stagflation and tariffs. We have open discussions, artificial intelligence, earnings, demography and robotics, stock dossiers. I mean, we get into a lot of stuff. And most of these are, I have a set of slides that are there to help kind of begin and foster the conversation, but there's a lot of conversation that goes on inside. So yeah, so there's you a little sneak peek. Where is oh, I don't have it. Let's go. Come on. And you'll see this is a mastermind group, which uh is a little bit different. You've got your success path, which is very similar to trading you. You've got your core trainings and you've got your live monthly trainings. Um, and so you can always access that. And what we're talking about is we're doing a lot of directional trading, day trading, Fibonacci bias indicators, charting, strategy creation system. Yeah. And then, we also periodically will hit on covered calls, other cash flow strategies like naked puts. We talk about mindset, all kinds of different stuff. We talked about building candidate lists and using scanners this past Tuesday. So yeah, it's a little bit different, but it's very similar. And then of course, Trading You is also the site itself is very much the similar. You've got your vault with all your different ways that you can go at it. Like I said, technical analysis, futures, trade setups. If you go back to your start here, you've got your success path. So, a lot of the same stuff, but just at different levels. So, all right. So, does anybody have any questions about Mastermind? What a mastermind is, what it does, how it can help you? I hope I've answered already most of that, but feel free to type in your questions about that stuff if you have any. And then, of course, as per usual, what do you want? We'll do some charting, maybe look at some candidates if you guys want to drop in your candidates, and we'll take a little bit of analysis time to look at some of this stuff. And of course, as you know, I always have an extra slide for all of my presentations. So remember, a few months of learning how to trade can produce a lifetime of freedom. And if you haven't seen Billions, you really need to watch it. If you're a trader, you will really like this show. I think is it on HBO? I think it's on HBO. Anyway, it's been around for a while. It's actually you can binge watch the whole thing because it's over. You don't have to wait for more episodes, which I just despise. I usually wait till the whole season is over and then watch it so I don't have to wait. when it comes to anything TV. But here's the old disclaimer one last time, and that here endeth the slideshow portion of today's entertainment. So let's go over to the chart and we will bring up tab 2. And Brenda wants to look at SPY. Oh, I had that pulled back. Oh, I had it pulled back because, yeah, we're almost ready to look to redraw. Of course, with the step up, it makes it a little bit more difficult. But yeah, so we've got, looks like the SPX as you would expect. So if we zoom in a little bit, oh, wow. Okay, that's 4, 3, 2. So yeah, very similar to the SPX. We did pierce through the 8 moving average today, but we have managed to stay above it at this point. If we take a peek at this, and this is my morning scalp screen, ta-da, but here's the SPY. Hello, there we go. Maximize that. Let's do auto zoom. Let's get our time frame. Let's do 15 minutes. We'll start with 15 minutes. So here's a couple of days. You see, yesterday was a nice little step up, sideways, step up. Today, big crash. And right now we're going sideways. So, maybe we've put in a little support right here at that 644 and a half-ish area, which we had a little support back here as well in your look left. Let's auto zoom that back out and look at that. Of course, that was after hours. That was the big drop on, that was the gap on Tuesday. All that happened overnight. The Europeans did not like something, or maybe they were just taking profits because it was so high. But anyway, we've got our, so here is our minus 618. So we got up above it. We haven't closed up above it, but we're right there at it. But from a trading standpoint, if it were to close here, it's kind of in the middle of nowhere for the Fibonacci's, which is not great, but it's right at the 8. So we'll see where it ends up for the day, because obviously anything can happen. We got a lot of time left. But for right now, this is kind of let's wait and see. If you're doing directional trades, if you're doing something else, like maybe doing, let's do this again. That looks like a nice place to look to put a bull put spread underneath. If you don't want to trade directional, and of course you would do that according to whatever you like to do with that. But that's another opportunity. But directionally, I think this is kind of a maybe hang out and wait. I did not. Let's see. No, I have not redrawn my fibs for the SPY because it has not. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months. So it's not too old. We are above the 618, but minus 618, but we have to close above the minus 618 or close, in this case, below the 882. So it's not too old. There's not a bigger move, and we haven't reached our disqualification criteria yet. So no, it's not, but it's like I said, it's right there, so it's ready. The problem is going to be finding the proper fib because of the way that it's set up. Right off my right off the right off of the top, I would say this one right here is the best move, but it's kind of long. You don't want it too steep, but you don't want it too flat either. So I don't know. We'll see what it does. For all we know, it could come back down here again. But if it takes off, then we might want to look at it. But then we need our V top, which we don't quite have yet, do we? I guess we do have a V-top right there. But like I said, the up down, that makes it tough. So let's take a look. Also ask for the cues, of course. And we've got our cues, which again look very similar. Have not quite made back to the all-time high, um, which was above the 618. Let's do that. And you'll notice this is a closed candle, so um, the close was the bottom, which is just barely below that 618. So again, we haven't technically closed above the minus 618. So, but I think the redraw on this one would be a little bit, but that's not quite as flat. But I like that move right there if we get the criteria. Where did I start? You mean right here? Here's the existing fib. If I were to draw a new fib, I would start like maybe here, maybe do this move right here. But I still want to see that close first, or a bigger move, which we definitely don't have. It's definitely not too old. But this is another one. It's kind of in the middle of the fibs. It's a little bit farther above the 8. For a directional trade, it's not great. I'm guessing without even looking, but we're going to go look at the cues that we might have the same thing, since that's the way it usually works out. And lo and behold, boom. So again, if you want to do something with the cues, you might look at putting a bull put spread underneath this level somewhere. Where, it could be 570, it could be 560, it could be 500. It just depends on what do the options look like, what's your risk like. But yeah, that's an area where you could say that looks like support to me. And we've got supporting support back here, so okay. Um, but if we've got the next fib level up to the 581. Um, Downside, we got a lot to get over. We got to get past this fib, and then we got a clear shot down to the next one. For let's do this. Oops. For the SPY, I didn't talk about this before. Um, Again, if we get a bounce off of that 649 and a half, if we move down, I mean, we've got a decent enough move. That's $4 or $5, but we've got a lot of roadblocks. Got the 8, got the 21. If we get down to that 639 and keep going, that's a nice move right there. Not a lot in the way. If we get back above the 649 and bounce, not much above. So, from that standpoint, above the 650, below the 640, 639, but in between where we are right now, a little bit tougher, right? Okay, and then for my favorites, you wanted to ask me about these, right? And I actually traded AMD this morning for like 2 minutes. But yeah, look at that. Bang. It's like, well, the trade was this morning. Oops, sorry. I don't think we're quite at 25%. We might be close. Let's take a look. Yeah, we're close, but we're still above it. So we're not quite there yet. So we're still a 3, grade of 3, quote, in the middle of nowhere, although we're on the downside of nowhere. Let's get this a little bigger. So you can see we had a big run up. So we're kind of starting to give it back. Now, one thing to look at here is our Fibonacci may be ready for a redraw. So, oops. Did it not do it? Okay. Come on. There we go. So we've got our 882. So we'll zoom back in. Hello. Oh wow, that's a 3. So if we close below the 882, we could be looking for a redraw. We'll need a V bottom. That's a decent move. The box of neutrality in the middle there is not great, but if it's in the middle, it's a little bit less worrisome. And it's not too big. It's kind of big, but it's not too big. Those are technical terms, by the way. um, so yeah, we'll wait and see if we actually get the signal to redraw and we get our V bottom. But for right now, it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. What is the range? 6. That's 8. So we don't need that Fibit for per se the range, but we could play it off of that. Oops, that's not what I wanted. So that's as big as it's going to get, huh? Unless I do this. So, we could take a bounce off the 153 down to the 149. It's okay. It's not a great move. You're going to get maybe a couple bucks out of that. Obviously, you've got a huge downside here, but this is where the fib doesn't work as well. You want to redraw. And like I said, if I were to redraw, which I am not, I would probably do this. But that is if I get a V bottom where I get, maybe it closes here and on Monday it opens here and goes up to here and closes. If I get that V, that could be a nice little fib. For right now, it's not there yet. So let's, oops, there we go. Delete. So anyway, to get up above the one, we could get up the 153 and make a move to the 157. Another $4. It's a decent move, decent day trade, but once you start to get above 157, you've got a clear shot to 162. So you've got a 2-line move. That's nice, even though this isn't a real line. It kind of is. Um, and then you start to run into the 8 and the 21, and you start to run into some resistance if you're on the upside. So the downside looks a little bit more open. Um, so yeah, but for right now, again, just kind of wait. It's nothing really setting up yet. For Micron, let's see. Let's get a bigger picture. Big move up, move back down. I should have redrawn a long time ago. I don't do a lot of day trade stuff off of this. I'm scalping it. So I don't always do this, but there's definitely a Fibonacci right there. So let's look at what that gives us. And lo and behold, we're right in the middle of nowhere again. So that's not helping us. We've got 9, so we definitely need that Fibit. We almost need this one, but we'll wait till we get down there. But we definitely need that one. So let's do this. So, yeah, definitely. That is definitely in the middle of nowhere. Plus we've got these swing high, this swing high right here. That's kind of some resistance possibly. If we get down to the 125, then 125 and a half, we've got a switch back. Much better to the upside, back up to the 130. But we do have room, depending on where the moving averages get to once we get there. We do have room down to about 121, 122. So, and then you're going to run into the 8 before you get to the next fib level. So, yeah, a bunch of wait and sees. On the other hand, what else? Who else knows what the problem is with doing anything other than a scalp or a day trade on Micron? You know, I love participation. Anybody? Bueller? How about this right here? Earnings. Um, and this is so this is the 23rd. So, and this is one of the reasons another one of the many reasons I like Micron is it keeps me engaged with the earnings cycle. And you hear people talk about earnings starting and earnings being over. Earnings is never over. It's like everything else. It's a cycle. The beginning of the cycle is the banks and Alcoa and Netflix and used to be United Healthcare. The end of the cycle is Adobe and Micron, and the real end of the cycle is Levi Strauss. So write that one down. I don't trade it, but I know that when if I happen to see a Levi Strauss on an earnings page, that the cycle is over because I believe Levi Strauss is like October 6th, October 7th. And the next cycle for the banks starts, I believe, October 16, October 17. So, is that right? It might be 15, 16. Oops, that's not what I wanted. Yeah, I think it's 14, 15, 16, because 17 is Friday. Um, but yeah, and something else that I wanted to share with everybody. Um, while we're if you've got a candidate, throw it in there. We got a couple minutes left. If not, I will show you our um I'll give you a sneak peek of what it's like to be in Mastermind group. So here is my slide set for Mastermind group. We didn't have for Inner Circle. I'm sorry. We didn't have Inner Circle Monday because it was Labor Day, but the week before that, of course, we do the same stuff, right? And we do a Q&A in there and we do a market review in there. So I do a lot of my classes the same way. And I got this from Rob. You know, I'm not going to even attempt to make anybody believe that I invented any of this stuff. But one thing that I added to it, mastermind concept, is earnings. You guys know I'm big about earnings. And I get this email every Saturday, most anticipated earnings from Earnings Whisper. And so it kind of shows me what I can look for. Another thing we do in Inner Circle sometimes is we look for these morning ones. Like there's nothing, there's Kohl's, Abercrombie and Fitch, Williams Sonoma. So some retail stuff, up FinTech. We got Dick's, Best Buy, Dollar General. Sometimes you can find some really cool post earnings trades. And in the morning, they usually announce around 7, somewhere between 7 and 8, maybe 6, depending on the company. But what sometimes happens is you'll have the earnings announcement at, we'll say 7, and then they'll have the call at 9 or 9:30. And sometimes that call is where you really go over guidance and it can cause another spike in either direction. And you can trade that, and the market is open. Another thing is possibly to trade an overreaction to earnings. Sometimes I did a trade this morning on Avago. Avago had earnings yesterday afternoon. They went way up overnight, and lo and behold, we had some profit takers this morning, and I got a little bitty scalp on the downside. I think it lasted like 5 minutes. Um, I got a whole dollar, I think, but a dollar in 5 minutes. When was the last time you made uh uh I think it was like a 33% rate of return in 5 minutes. So, things like that. And then we went into our topic, wrong way, which was AI. And we talk about some AI stuff. Here's some of the different AI things out there. If you dare venture into DeepSeek and let the Chinese have all your information. But we also talked about AI prompts for traders from Wealth Builders. And for those of you unaware of this, let's go back over here. And this is a free offering from Wealth Builders. It comes with a little video from Rob, as well as a nice document of different things you can ask your favorite AI engine every morning. You know, economic events, sentiment analysis, earnings, sectors. So yeah, go check that out. That's really cool. I believe it's on Trading Like a Boss. And then I always finish up Inner Circle with what's next. And these are some of the things we talk about. We review what we've been doing. We talk about scalping. We talk about AI. We do anatomy of a trade where we actually, somebody will have a trade and we will go through that trade and show the anatomy of it, the entry, the stop, the exit, what happened, why'd you get into it, something else, Mastermind, where we've got teachers, student teaching. And then, of course, I've usually got some calendar events on here. Like we got Mastermind Week next week. We got Trader Super Summit on the 19th. Then we got our next quarterly coming up in the middle of October. So there, and then of course, always with the fun slides to finish, the future of work skills and demand and ABCs of being productive, just stuff I find along my merry way, whether it's on Pinterest or YouTube or somewhere else. So there you go. There's your second sneak peek into all of that. And with that, we're a couple minutes over. So we're going to let Andrew move along. Off topic, is there a way to download Windows 11 on a 64-bit Windows 10 computer? Brenda, I'm going to let everybody else go, but I will show you very quickly because that's my other love. If you go to Windows 11 upgrade, how to get Windows 11 for your compatible PC. And it will tell you, check your compatibility, check for upgrade now, how to get it, what's your system requirement, because there are some system requirements. And this firmware one could stop you. So make sure that you look at that one. You've probably got plenty of storage. You've probably got plenty of RAM. Check your processor, probably okay, but you need another piece, trusted platform module, and your system firmware. Those are the two things that might stop you. So there you go. All right, we're done. Everybody have a good weekend. Try discipline for the rest of the day, and we will see you at Mastermind Week.